Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for the Types of Marketing series. So, after 14 episodes where I took you through various kinds of, marketing, it's like an educational thing. You had email marketing, social media marketing, report marketing reporting. You had influencer marketing. So, I've covered the various aspects of it and all we've done with all the types that I covered in the episode. So you basically, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will get all the particular streams, live streams that I did on that. It's a good kind of reference thing where as a marketer you can look at what all options you have, because as marketing is progressing, the digitalization, things are getting more personalized. You have so much, I mean, technology is going at a rapid pace. You have to know what all avenues you have, different tools, platforms, how you can kind of get your audience in. So that was a thing. It was a great kind of a revision for me also, going through all that material for different types of marketing and all. And it's been a great, thank you all for your support. So today we'll be doing a kind of a Q&A session, because you all send me a lot of questions, whoever is kind of connected me on LinkedIn. So even if you want to send questions, you can send me like in terms of DM on, just you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I got a lot of questions within the content space. Why? Because obviously everyone today, I mean, every company is a content company. Everyone wants to be a content creator. That is there. So they want tips or how to do things in that, how to what to post, what would connect with an audience. So I've got a very special guest today. So this is Rebecca De Silva. So I'll just bring on. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hey Nikhil, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. Rebecca has done quite a few earlier collaborations with me also, and I would thank her also today. It's especially for coming down and trying to talk about the content, the queries that the audience have with respect to content. So, Rebecca, just a little bit of an intro of yours, if you could give to the audience, so we get to know more about you.
Sure thing. Thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on Marketing Intelligence. I've been here on a couple of episodes and I always enjoy the discourse that happens here. I think in the same process, like you mentioned, I also learn a lot. So a little bit about me. I've been a marketer my whole life, my whole professional life. I started quite early with internships and then freelance work and then transitioned into it full time. Even though I have a background in engineering, I was always passionate about marketing. And I entered the content marketing space first. I've always been involved in B2B marketing. I've done a little B2C like occasionally, but largely I've worked with tech startups, and I think I'd like to say, like quite a bit of experience when it comes to content or even events. And yeah, I think that's pretty much about me. I'm just a pretty average Bangalore girl.
No, no, definitely you're not average. I think you're one of you were the top writers on Quora. You can tell a little bit about that to the audience.
So that was actually a while ago. I used to write on Quora. I used to write a lot in the fintech space about return on investment and about personal branding. And in 2018, I was given the title of top writer. So, I mean, it's a pretty coveted achievement. I still hold it today. But yeah, it pretty much projected my career into content marketing and just the content space in general. I started out as a writer just as everyone else, and then slowly made my way up into, building strategies, creating game plans, GTM plans as well. And yeah, from content, I moved into events, and hopefully, like soon enough, I move into a more general marketing role as well. That's my goal, at least.
That's right. And I wish you all the best for that. I think then we'll just start off the session, the major. So there were a lot of questions, but I kind of categorize into a few of them, because they are kind of will cover. Once you will answer them, they will cover all the mini doubts also people have
Sure.
regarding content in general. So awesome. So first is the basics of a content strategy. Very important question is that when you start off in the profession and all, you just want to know how to kind of create a strategy. That's the first thing. I mean, even when you go for an interview in the content position, they will ask you how will you create a strategy for us. And also, I think the basics in that, or what kind of a framework you set, is very important to know that, because then it depends on the case to case basis. You can work on it. But what are the kind of the framework basic that is required in that? Let's I think we can cover that.
Sure thing. So when I look at a content strategy, I think it's important to categorize it in three main steps. You first have your prerequisites that you need to take care of before you actually build your strategy. Then you come to like the meat of the strategy, how you actually create it, and then finally you have the distribution part of it as well. So that's at least how I categorize it. And when it comes to the prerequisites of what you need to do, of course, the first thing to do is analyze where you are at currently, analyze the company that you're working at, what are the problem statements that you have, and just get a deep understanding of where the company lies in the first place. I think analyzing this, of course, comes in a couple of different ways. First, you look at the problem statements, like I mentioned. Then you look at what is the goal, the objectives of the company that you're doing. You look at your competitors in similar spaces. You look at what they are doing, how they're building it out. And then finally, you analyze your audience as well. What is it that they are looking for, and how are you solving for it? So I'd say that would be one of the first steps you start off with. Then you come to describing your objectives. So as a marketer, I think it's important, and I think this framework applies for a lot of different professions, where you create goals that are SMART, SMART, which is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and defined in a time. So that means when you're creating your objectives, you want it to be something that you can realistically aim for in a defined time period. You don't want to give vague objectives. You don't want to give things that are out of your reach. So when you're creating your objectives, it's important to know first and foremost what are your business objectives. That is what the company itself stands for on a larger level. What is it that they are looking to achieve? Is it getting more awareness? Is it getting more leads? How exactly are you fitting into that? So that comes with your business objectives. Then you look at your marketing objectives itself, which means how are you achieving that via marketing? Are you focused on paid media, earned media, or created owned media itself? What are you trying to do from your marketing perspective? And the third thing is one of my favorites, it's aspirational objectives. So where are you currently, and what do you aim to get beyond that? So I would say these are like the two, of course, yeah. Then the third thing finally to do, like I mentioned before, is analyze your audience as well. So what is it that your audience is looking for? What are the things that you want to give to them or that you can offer them, and the problems that you're solving for? So these are three things that come in the prerequisites of creating your content strategy. And this is important because it ties into the first step of what I like to think is the starting of creating a strategy, where you're aligning with the goals itself. So you're aligning with the audience, you're aligning with the objectives, and you're aligning with the analysis that you've conducted beforehand. So this is setting the first step of what you need to look forward to. And this is important to keep as like a single source of truth. So you always come back to it to say that, hey, this is my audience. Let me not waver from it. These are my objectives. I don't want to go too far from it later on. Similarly, when you have, what your competitor analysis is or what you've done your initial level of research, it's important to have that and keep that very steady so that you don't go too far from it, no matter how many steps ahead you get in your strategy. So the first step is actually aligning to the goals that you've created. The second thing is auditing it. So once you've created everything, you want to do a preliminary round of auditing of what is good, what can possibly work, and what is something that you might need to skip out. And when I say audit, I mean, at least in the beginning, you have to consult with senior management, with leadership teams, with the other marketing members itself to see how you bring it back to the same SMART objectives. You need to make it specific, you need to make it measurable, you need to make it achievable, realistic, and defined in a time. So once you have those particular the steps that you want to do, and I will give like an example for this later on, I'm just describing it in a more general term right now. Once you have the audit, the next thing to do is actually come up with your performance plan. So how are you going to produce these things? How are you going to, who's going to be responsible, who's going to take ownership of these things? Is it something that you're going to do entirely on your own? Do you have a team working under you? Do you have people you can outsource this to? Maybe there's like a blog agency that's working with you, or maybe there are people who you can give this to as like a PR agency or things like that. So once you have your production plan, the next thing to do is measure it. You set your performance metrics, you set the metrics that you want to look at, that you that will help you decide whether a particular strategy is working for you or it is not. And then finally, you create your distribution plan, which is which are the channels you're going to distribute it to, which are the how you're going to go around with the entire plan of that. And that's like a completely different ballpark. So again, there you're looking at owned, paid, and earned media. So your earned media would be your PR, you would have like guest blogs and things like that. You would have your paid media, which is your ads, social media, things like that, and owned media, which you are conducting like in-house and creating in-house. Now, I know this is probably like a lot of information to digest like right away. So if I had to put it in terms of like an example, say a very simple thing to do is you are working for a skincare startup and you are looking to increase your customer base. A very simple goal, that my goal is to just increase sales and get awareness out there. So if you're just starting up, if you're looking at how to go about that, first you do your analysis, right? So you're looking at what are the problems. Maybe say a very simple thing, people have dry skin, or people are looking at getting skincare that is more natural. So those are the problem statements that you have, and you have analyzed that this is a particular problem area. The next thing to do is define your objectives. So you say, hey, I'm going to do, 3 blogs in a month. Just a very simple goal that's totally achievable. You've set a timeline. You've put like a very specific thing there saying only 3 blogs in 1 month. It is realistic to complete. So next you see how does it tie into your business objectives and your marketing objectives. From a business perspective, you plan to use these blogs on a website that will redirect people back to, say, a landing page to make them sign up. So that is achieving both your business and your marketing objectives. And then you go about creating like the performance plan for it. So you decide, I'm going to hire a content writer to do this for me. This person is going to be the owner of this particular collateral. This person is going to write everything for me. And the way I'm going to measure it is see how many viewers are coming to the page, how much organic traffic it generates, how many reshares. If you have like comments and things under a blog, you can, use those metrics, whatever is important to your company at the time. And then finally, you create like a distribution strategy that I'm going to promote this via social media. I'm going to promote this via emails. And I think that's pretty much it. So when you're creating your strategy, and this is like the short version of the answer that people can probably use for like an interview, or maybe when you have to explain your main goal or like a very high level overview of what you want to do. I think this is like a good way to start it off. Then you can go into depth about how you plan to do very specific things for a particular company. If you're working for a SaaS startup, you'd want to look at, what is the audience that you're targeting there? Are they, is it people who are working in, say, fintechs? Is it banking? Or is it, HR? Is it just normal developers? Who are you targeting there? That sort of thing comes into it once you go more deeper into
That's
the
right.
strategy.
That's right. One important thing within a content strategy is the personas that you make. You know, the kind of people under the in within the TG. So, could you elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of, because end of the day, those kinds of people will be consuming your content. So that also helps in designing the content for the different personas. So a little bit, if you could shed some light on that.
Sure. So this, I think, comes under the step that I mentioned as a prerequisite, where you need to analyze your audience. You need to see who are
Hmm.
the people who are consuming your content, who you're targeting, and how exactly you plan to target them. So, for example, in my previous organization where I worked with a fintech, we were working exclusively with banks and smaller non-banking financial companies. The way we created our personas was for each bank, we would look at how do you reach the decision maker there. So if you're creating content for a decision maker who's like a CEO level, so you want to talk about how our particular product is going to benefit a CEO. So you're talking about business benefits, you're talking about an
Hmm.
increase in revenue, you're talking about maybe lesser time used or lesser effort used or even the price points. We're talking about how this is beneficial to their business to go for a particular product. But if your persona and if you've identified that people who are also consuming your content are, say, from operations, now, operations is not something you're specifically targeting, but if you have identified that these are people who are consuming your content, so you need to create it in order to cater to an ops person. So, what do ops people care about? They care about the time required, they care about the turnaround time, they care about, the maybe things like overhead costs. They care about the management, how many people are required to do these particular tasks. So when you're describing or creating content that's targeted to this persona, you create it in a line with what they would be more familiar with. You cater to the jargon that they are using, and you show that your product is something that's holistically good and benefits in all these different areas of a business and to all the different people, right? So it's highly unlikely that you'd have like a decision maker who's in marketing itself. So you wouldn't need to worry about, or unless you're talking about like a marketing startup. So you would mostly have to worry about uh, talking their language, I would say. So identifying
That's
the
right.
persona comes from like a lot of research. You have to check, who are the people who are following you. You have to check who are the people who are reacting to the posts that you're putting out,
That's
to
right.
the content that you're putting out. And there are a lot of
Rebecca, in a B2C, if you could share something, because B2B obviously will be more on their work profile of what
right.
posts they are on. So in this, it's more, we would like to cover that part also, where it's just the person and they are going to use some product or something.
Sure. So when it's a B2C, I think you have a lot more solid metrics there because you have
Hmm.
people who are directly consuming, your products itself. You have the data of the people who are consuming things. You have the people who are ordering things from you. You have people who are, say buying your products directly from first hand experience. You can tell, if I put an Instagram ad out, this particular ad, like say the content of your ad says buy this pair of pants because they're the most comfortable and most stylish, and they're available in XYZ colors. So you know that, okay, the people who are consuming this, and if this has led to sales, you can identify that a persona that you're targeting are people who value their physical appearance and style. So they
Hmm.
value, things like how it looks, what colors it comes in, and again, these are very like simple metrics that I'm considering. But you can tell from the initial, at least, posts or ads or anything that you're putting out. You can check the results and figure out the persona that way, and then you obviously capitalize on that particular data that you have.
Yeah,
So
I think
again,
also within that, when you're doing the mapping in this B2C sense, you also look at then what they are consuming in the media, like
right.
what kind of sites they're going on, or who they are following. So then you have to also look at the pop culture at that time, what is trending within that, that can, because that would get more views in terms of if something around that you have created a topic or something.
Of course, yeah. I think with B2C, it's super important to stay very relevant. Of course, that's important for all sorts of marketing, but consumers, like direct consumers, they change very quickly. Like it's hard to grasp the attention there because you're
Mhm.
working in such a magnitude. So you need to capitalize on what is the trend that is attracting the most amount of audience at that particular time.
That's right. And do you think for a smaller brand, they kind of, in terms of the persona, also they have to be kind of more focused in that, in creating content? Because if they are, if they create multiple personas, it's difficult to then reach out because it's not that focused, even on social media, then to, unless, because they don't have those budgets to reach those multiple. So it's like if you are more focused in that sense, do you think then it'll be better for you?
I think when it comes to like a very small brand, it's important to identify your messaging straight off the bat so that you're only, rather than catering to personas, you are attracting only those personas. So it's a little bit different there. You're not trying to run behind a particular person. Instead, you are trying to get only those people. So, say you are creating like a brand that is all for sustainability, so you want to have your brand messaging that strong that you only attract that audience. You're not getting someone who is just, coming in because they've confused your brand for something else.
That's right. Yes, so even in terms of the on social media, I think that was what, when you are suggesting to homegrown influencer, homegrown, I mean just starting on your own without any budget and all that, the more focused the content to a very specific TG or a niche, that is the more chances of you to connect with them and then grow your channel and basically. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Uh, Great. We'll go to our next question. Um, Now, as content creators, you obviously every day you have to post content. You have to, design certain kind of patterns and all, or you should know like a basic storytelling, right? Because even when that feature came out of stories, is the people who do the best on it is when they are conveying a certain thing. It's not like just you're just putting out random things out there. So in storytelling techniques, you as a writer, what would you suggest to content creators? Like what can they do? Because most content creators now is they are like subject matter experts, or they could be into a different kind of field which is not marketing or entertainment or something. So what are the certain techniques would be you would suggest to them to learn and then implement?
Yeah, so I think this ties in very well to, the previous question also that we were discussing. You want to target like a particular niche, but at the same time, the kind of people that you're attracting and the people that you want to be behind you are people who understand your mission or who relate to you in some way. I think we've discussed this in some of your previous episodes
Yes,
as
yes.
well, that relatability is a big factor when it comes to marketing. And that's why we use storytelling, because you can connect on some level to everyone. Maybe even if it's like the smallest fact, like, where even say, like, if you tell a person, hey, did you watch cartoons growing up? I'm pretty sure, 90% of, kids would have probably watched some or the other cartoon. So you have one data point that is somehow relating you to a larger audience. And
Mhm.
that's something that I think storytelling can really highlight when you use it effectively in marketing. So you want to use it in a way where you are attracting people who believe in your particular mission, but you also want them to support you, right? So you want them to say, from a B2C space or B2B space, you want them to buy from you. You want them to believe in the path that you are going on and join you, rather than, just be a recipient. You want them to be a participant. So when I think about storytelling, I think it's important to bring out personal anecdotes. At least those are techniques that I use quite often, and
Mm.
that we use in, the organizations that I've worked with. We use a lot of personal anecdotes, whether it comes from people in the team or it comes from our audience as well. So, for example, we work a lot with developers, and we talk a lot about the challenges that they face, whether even it's in a humorous aspect or even if it's a real challenge. We bring it out so that we can show that we are helping solving for it. We're here to help you solve for that particular problem because we know you face it and we find that relatable. So I'd say one thing to consider when you're doing storytelling is find personal anecdotes, find, points that can help show your human nature, that bring out a more candid aspect of how you are portraying yourself. Like you said, right, the stories feature itself on Instagram or whatever, Snapchat and everything. The reason it became so popular is because people are very candid on it. It's not a
Mm.
post where you are spending hours together, just trying to come up with the perfect like editing or perfect like angle or perfect this, perfect that, and like a caption and everything else, and ultimately you post something because you know it's super permanent. So I
Mm.
think everyone can relate to that when you post something, hours and hours of thought has gone into it or design has gone into it.
That's it. The stories which are doing better also is like why it was that they get a behind the scenes, and those who design that they will show their whole day how it pans out. Like say there's a stand-up comedian who is showing behind the scenes of that place, how did he get to it, and the shoot and different. So which was a very like it could be like a vlog format, but it was kind of very interesting that it brings out once though you've not seen it earlier, and then also a human side of it, like what they face also throughout the day, because we generally would just see the glamour behind it, but the work behind it also. So people kind of connect more to it in that sense. So that is also kind of a technique that they have been using in their stories and all.
Yep, definitely. I think bringing out the human aspect, bringing out the fact that, not everything is polished, that makes a huge difference because people relate to it on a bigger level. They don't put you on a pedestal or see you as someone as they can that can't be touched or can't whatever you're doing
Mhm.
can't be achieved. They see you as some like an aspirational target almost, I'd say.
That's
So
right.
that's for influencers at least. But when it comes to
And
brands,
that is
yes.
one of the reasons, like now when we are talking, there is a kind of a discussion on the influencer marketing fatigue, is because some of these influencers have become so big, and in terms of the earnings, and also now people and how they showcase themselves, they are not able to relate with them, because that human aspect, maybe in terms of they are not able to connect them with them at any level. So that's why I think the nano influencers and other ones who are more with their audience, they are more connected. They are kind of also doing well in terms of even in the influencer marketing campaigns, in the results that we can get in it. So that is also some kind of a lesson to learn in that.
Yep, yep. I definitely think so. I think some influencers, I mean, and like it's great for them because they've achieved all that target.
Yeah.
They've achieved what they have after like years of spending time and like putting in the hard work, of course. But I think when you reach that particular level, your audience changes completely. You're no longer
Mhm.
dealing with the masses. You're dealing with people at a higher level.
That's it. Like the boy next door, girl next door, not that anymore.
Yeah.
So then it is like in the celebrity this thing. So obviously then your content will have to change accordingly, or you get into like the subject matter expert or something more focused content where people would like to learn from you basically.
I think even with subject matter experts, there's a way to use storytelling in the way that they are, portraying things. Because subject matter experts generally create content for a lot of thought leadership. You're trying to position yourself as an expert in the industry. But at the same time, you can use storytelling to, bring out the journey of how you got there, or even things that sparked your interest, right? Like for me
Hmm.
as a marketer as well, like I keep going back to the fact that, I started marketing because I worked with my uncles when I was 16. And that's when I realized, like, okay, wow, this is like a completely different field and I really like it. Or even, the fact that I was a very creative child, I was always in acting and singing and, a lot of performance arts. And I chose marketing because I could use those arts like in my daily career. Like now itself, I host webinars for a living, and my acting skills come to great use there. So I think bringing out those stories help people understand, or even, they might even follow through on the same path as you have. Similarly, with companies and brands, having that particular, tie or that relatability to your audience, saying that, hey, I created this skincare brand because I have these problems and I did this so that I can like alleviate myself and I want to help you feel the same way. Or I created these clothes because, I found a need that there were not enough reasonably priced clothes with this material, and therefore, I want to help you do the same. It's all about connecting yourself with your audience because, again, like I said, right, the main thing is you want them to be recipients, participants, not just recipients.
That's right. We'll go to our next question. So, community marketing has come up a lot. Like, even I've heard now in the news that because of that, when we mentioned about the influencer marketing fatigue, now they are reaching out to communities which are on, say, have an Instagram profile for a particular people who have a similar kind of interest. So,
Yeah.
and there are also now platforms which have come up, which can be in a specific, like Discord has been there for a long time, and specifically for let's say Quora is a discussion, and within I think Quora we would have different communities discussing something in a specific domain. So as a marketer, you have to leverage these platforms. So Rebecca, if you could share something about this, how marketers can best use it, because now it's an intrinsic part of a kind of marketing your strategy, community marketing. So how do you can you leverage these platforms?
I think community marketing solves for one huge problem that we as marketers have when you have to segment your audience, when you need to target and, like you said, right, create personas and actually find the people. The segmenting process becomes really hard. So at times, you revert to community marketing because you have your audience created for you. You just need to
Yeah.
infiltrate it and be a part of them and understand their problems and pitch your solutions accordingly, right? So there's ways to use it without, just being, say, like someone almost as an intruder in a community, because that's something you absolutely do not want. And I've seen firsthand experiences where I myself, have gone a little overboard trying to like push forth our product in communities. And sometimes they are not interested in products, they're interested in people. So I think that way, like storytelling also ties into a big aspect here. When you're using platforms like Quora, I'd say there's two ways that marketers can actually leverage it. One, through like community marketing, using backlinks and getting people onto your website, or creating content that gets people back to your product. And again, becoming like an influencer itself in the space, right? Because having your own personal brand in these communities helps a lot when it comes to the actual marketing bit of it. So with Quora, you have something called spaces where, you have different communities, people following the same topic, people on like, particular blogs or particular sites that all deal with the same content, right? And the way you want to market to them without being overly pushy, or without, coming off as someone who's just pushing forth their own agenda, is you want to first start out by creating content around that particular topic itself without your product plugin. So you want to establish yourself as someone who's knowledgeable in the field, someone who cares about the field itself. And then you can bring forth, in a very natural way, you can start using your product as something that has helped you personally, or something that has, helped alleviate you in some or the other way. So I think like with communities, it's important to if you are someone who's just leveraging community marketing or planning to be part of a community to market to them, you need to essentially become an influencer there, where you need to talk about, establish yourself as like a subject matter expert, and then talk about, your product or things that have helped you. But on the flip
That's
side, if you are creating a community itself, right? So you want to build your own community. You want to use platforms to start out something on its own. In that case, I'd say it's like any other marketing where you initially try to source people who are interested in the same thing. You start by creating, something that sparks interest for other people as well, and then establish it again with a lot of thought leadership. I think it's super important in community marketing that you don't try and look very pushy in how you're pushing your own agenda, because it can go south very quickly. And once you've lost the trust of a community, there's no like getting it back. I've seen
so
this happen
on.
on Slack a lot, because you have like different communities on Slack, different channels that people are part of to just hear about news or be a part of it and listen to things. And there are people who are just spamming non-stop, and then immediately they get kicked out because you don't want them there anymore.
So on Quora as a brand, then do you suggest that you answer the queries that are there, that you as a brand page that can be done? And do you suggest I mean, you as a brand only, you are putting out your content, like say interesting topics, or do you then have your content team going in there as writers and trying to, so there is like, it doesn't seem as a brand is answering. What kind of thing do you suggest in that?
I think it's important to have a personal touch there, where
Hmm.
you're getting either your leadership team to do the writing, or you have ghost writers for your leadership
Both, yeah.
team, or even having members of your either contractors or freelancers writing the content for you to redirect it, because you don't want to start creating like a brand page on its own, because the minute people see a brand, they get instantly put off. They know that there is some hidden agenda behind it.
That's right. So within like your particular company on the activities that you are doing, like what other community that would be also kind of informational, like where all do you identify communities for marketing? Like I think we mentioned just one or two. I think Discord was majorly into gaming only. Yeah.
You can actually find it on all different social media pages itself. Like on Facebook, you have groups. You have LinkedIn
Okay.
groups now
Okay.
as well. You have, on Instagram, you have people following a particular hashtag. You have
That's right.
different ways where people are following different topics. And I think those are things that you need to tap into. If you're looking at professional groups, I think LinkedIn is a huge plus there. You also have, smaller things that are more niche, like maybe even clubhouse groups. On Clubhouse, I don't know if it's still like a major thing. At one point, it was. I think now it's a little bit,
Yeah.
it's died down a bit. But I'd
Most
say
of the
like,
other platforms, they then went and their own audio platforms, they worked on those features,
yeah.
and also, yeah, that was then, that's what happens with the new platforms, like unless you are offering then something different or you capture an audience quickly and all that, then it's difficult to kind of sustain on the some aspects.
Yeah, but you still have your older platforms. Like you have Medium, you have Quora. That's the best platform to
Mhm.
find your writers, to find people who are actually putting in the work and writing long articles, long form content.
Mhm.
There are quite a few newer platforms that keep coming up every now and then. So I'd say like continuously doing your research will help you discover more writing communities, more, communities where people are talking about the same thing. But otherwise, like I'd say stick to the older channels itself, stick to, Discord or Slack. Slack is a big place to find professional communities and channels. Even things like meetups, you can see a lot of communities on meetups who actually, go forth and do different events and even participate in a lot of activities together. You can find things on Eventbrite also. I think there was
Then, as
one
a
point.
company, you can look at sponsoring those particular events,
Yeah,
like
you can.
identifying really small communities, and you can just kind of that'll not cost a lot also, and you have a very engaged audience there.
Right, definitely. And I think like smaller scale events are very popular here, like in Bangalore, especially. Like, if you're in the B2C space, there's a lot of potential for you to sponsor different things, even if it's something small. Like, we have a lot of fitness events that happen quite often in Bangalore. So there are a lot of food companies that sponsor just one workout session or just, a mini event of sorts. So you get in a lot of traction that way, and you have like a very particular specific audience that you're catering to.
That's right. So we'll go to our next question, which is within Rebecca's domain, is event marketing, which I think I'd covered in one of my episodes also, because now it's an intrinsic part of your content strategy. How do you ideate and design great experiences for events? Just if you could take us through, because you have that background and you have done quite some good work in that. If you could like guide the marketers in that.
So there are two different types of events that I usually am a part of. Like, I mean, if I had to segment it in physical and virtual itself,
Hmm.
there's also the aspect of, like you said, right, sponsored and things that you are creating on your own. So when you're sponsoring different events, whether physical or virtual, it's important in the ideation process to see something that very closely aligns with your objectives and your audience and your goals. So if you're looking at, like I just mentioned, right, a fitness community, if your brand is something that is super into the healthy lifestyle, or you're looking at being part of like a community that is more into exercise and fitness and stuff, you want to target those events to sponsor. So because creating your own event is a big process, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort in different ways, and the best place to get started first is always sponsoring your own sponsoring someone else's event, given of
Hmm.
course that you have the budget where you're either collaborating or creating a partnership with someone to just supply one item of your product. So these are like different ways you can go for sponsored events, or even another way to go for sponsored events is by setting up booths and participating in different events. So if you're a consumer brand in the B2C space, I would say keep a very close eye on different fairs and events that happen in and around your city, small scale ones where you can be a very big presence. So just for example, we have a very big thing in Bangalore called Soul Sante, which happens every Sunday in every other Sunday in this very big ground here called Palace Grounds. So a lot of different homegrown brands put up very small stalls there. But this is a huge fair. I'm talking about like 5,000, 6,000 people coming in. And each time it's a different set of audience coming in because they come in for the experience. So you're getting food stalls, you're getting, entertainment, you have so many things going on there. And it's a great way to showcase your brand as well. You can get a stall, start distributing things, keep a lot of samples for free, keep a lot of, things at your booth for people to try out, maybe even activities and stuff. I will get to that, I think, in a little bit as to like a basic event
That's right.
checklist of what we need to do for sponsored events. But that is one aspect. Always look at sponsored events. And the next thing is when you're creating your own event. And this is a much bigger process because when you go through the ideation stage, you need to figure out everything from the logistics to the operations to who you want at your event, how you're going to target your audience and get them there, what is the fact that is drawing them in, right? So if you're doing like a B2B event, people are drawn into networking events, people are drawn to panel discussions or topics with industry leaders. So you might want to design that as your main event and have everything else flow around that, like what are the activities that you do, what is the food you serve, what are the giveaways that you give also at the same time. So that is pretty much how you do like a physical event. Same thing with a virtual event. You're doing the same thing except you're not bringing the whole physical aspect and the actual experience, but you want to make it as close as possible. So you want to do it on a platform that gives people a real feel of communicating with each other. You want to do it with getting industry experts that people can actually learn from. And finally, you want to take in that feedback and get those leads that come out of the event and put them in nurture campaigns so that you're constantly keeping in touch with them.
That's right. I think I had covered a aspect within the events, which I think you can answer much better. Is post the event, the guests, like what kind of activity you do to approach them afterward, like after, like post event, like what kind of communication do you do to the people who attended the event?
So post event engagement is a big part of events because you don't just want to finish it, you want to remind people of the good time that they had
Hmm.
there. You want to remind people that, while it's still fresh in their heads of how your company is, what the things you
Hmm.
do are, and how they can leverage what you have to offer, right? So based on your event, I would say first and foremost, it's important to segment the people that came in as your leads, right? There are some people who
Hmm.
probably already bought your products, right? Say if it's a B2C,
Hmm.
people who purchased your products at an event. So, these are a set of people who are interested already, who are trying out things. So you can keep that as a separate segment. There would probably be people who just, tried something out and said, maybe I'll look at it at some other time. So they're interested. These are like warm leads, people who can potentially come back at some point. There are some people
Hmm.
who would have spoken to you, had a conversation with you, and then decided that okay, maybe not now, maybe sometime later. So categorizing those leads, I think, is step one. Then you create campaigns for them that would be very personalized. So for the people who are already interested, you want to remind them that, hey, we also have these offers going on, or hey, we also have these other products that you can try out. If you were interested in this, maybe you'd like this as well. There you're looking at upselling and reselling. So you want to tap into that with people who are already interested, with people who are just sparking interest, and who are more warmer, who may be potentials. You want to try and sell to them in a different way. Maybe not the same way that you used during your event, but maybe another approach. Say in your event, you were only pushing for one particular aspect of your product. Later on, you can probably say, hey, we didn't have these at the event, but these are also things you can try out, or these are offers that are going on in these particular products in this product line that we have. Or maybe even tell them that, hey, if you buy our product, this is what you're getting, this is what it can help you with. You can give them a more detailed explanation as to what your product does and how the benefits are, things that you might not have had a chance to explain during an event. During like a short communication, you can give them articles or send them blogs about why
Hmm.
your company is doing well, why you can invest in them, and what are benefits that you might get, things that might have
That's
slipped your
right. Also, one important in that episode I had covered. So I'll ask you this: that see, generally when we are attending these events, we want to network with the other people who are coming for the event. So, as a host of the event, are there any techniques you use that then it kind of breaks the ice between the people in the event and they can network? Because then that creates the great best experience, right? You don't like, okay, just go to event. Okay, there was some person performing, or there was like a seminar or something. You like the interactions you have. So how do you kind of make it in a way that it's kind of easier to interact with more people and go forward from there? Yeah.
I think a great conversation starter is first, when you come in and you show more of an interest in what the person is doing rather than straight away going for what you are doing or what you want out of
Mhm.
this. So as soon as you meet a person, you try to tell them a little bit, ask them, or, try to find what they are passionate about talking, like what they would like to talk about. So I found at least that when I attend events, what I do is I strike up a conversation with something that is fairly visible on that person itself. Like maybe at times the person is holding like a pamphlet or a brochure of their company, right? If you do have some knowledge about the company, you can always use that as a talking point. maybe you've seen them on LinkedIn before, maybe they're like an influencer. So you bring out something that you know they are interested in. And if you
Hmm.
have nothing else, you can just comment on, hey, did you like this particular aspect of the event? What did you think about it? Did you,
Hmm.
enjoy it? Is there something that you think we can do a little better? In a very organic way, you're sort of broaching the topic with them about what their interests were, and even getting feedback for the entire event. So I think that's like a great way to break the ice. Once you go forward from that, eventually I think the last bit would be, hey, like, once I pick up on something that you're saying, I can say, hey, this is what our product does, and I think we can help you with that. Let's talk about it some other time.
That's
Let's
right.
catch up over coffee. Let's catch up over another aspect,
Also, if
something
you
that,
just inform what you do, that would kind of, okay, that would stay in the mind. If he's had the great experience that once, that's what, like, when he actually needs it or that service, then he remembers you first because of that great
yep,
experience of
definitely.
interacting. As a host, in terms of that, actually, the more question was in that, but which I will also kind of, I think, in that episode I said or not, but I'll just say it here. So, like, I have attended events, so they have some kind of common activity, right? And initially only they do it. So there's a common game or there's an introduction or something. The introduction is like you got to have that, right? Especially like a
Right.
B2B kind of events and all, because then that gives you that fodder for then approaching that person. Okay, there is that commonality or something that they already know about you, right? So that will kind of break the ice. In some events have been like they've had a game only, right? So that has really opened up people, right? When they played that some game earlier only, like I think it could be as simple as I think there was a, I'm not sure whether there was a some word related singing or something that, but it like because it opened up the people there, because you're generally when you come you're a bit uptight in these events. You have people who maybe are introverts or something. So those are some kind of techniques. So in that aspect, like, what do you like to say as a host? Like, what do you kind of do to encourage that?
As a host, I would say, don't push too forward with any attendees.
Yeah.
Like, if they are not open to talking, you might want to give them something that is very easy to connect with, right? Like you said, when you have games and when you have like an introduction before, you already have something to build off of that. The other best thing, what I've noticed, is always food. You can always strike up a conversation with person by just asking them if they want to grab a cup of coffee. Obviously, at every event you would have, like, tea or biscuits or whatever it is, like, laid aside there, and it's great to start up a conversation as a person is, enjoying coffee or wants to have a discussion there. I would say, like, as a host, you're constantly asking people how they are, whether they enjoyed things, whether, everything is comfortable. And I think it's important to show that interest, that you actually care what they think. You're keen on understanding what they felt about the particular event. You're keen on, how did they get here? Did they get there okay? Did, you know every was travel okay? Was, the event itself knowledgeable? Did they feel like the quality of whatever they heard was important? And you want that feedback, basically, because you're trying to show them that their opinion matters.
That's right. Another one interesting I would like to share with the audience. So there was a host that whoever, I mean, the many people who are part of the event, they go and try to start talking to the people within the event, right, who have attended. So it's like then you automatically, once they leave that, then you're talking to like 3 4 people. So it's like it's a very warm atmosphere that they create, so that's very important, right? And today I think even I notice it in retail also, that you kind of that interaction that you have with the person, it creates that great experience. Like I think there's a brand called Decathlon, they use that
Yeah.
pretty well. Like when you enter the store, they would address you, and which is kind of new. Generally it's not happening that you feel good about yourself also at that time. And also I think these kind of things very simple actually, but they, if they are used, they have a great impact on the experience.
Yeah, but I'd
Awesome.
say
So
even at events, it's like important to position other people as well. Like just because you're the host doesn't mean you need to do absolutely everything. It's
that's
great if
right.
you have your salespeople there who are meant to have conversations with people. It's important to have like other members of your team, maybe even leadership members there, because you're
Mm.
showing that okay, people at that higher level want to discuss things with you, want to be a part of what you're doing and stuff. And people respond better, when they see people at higher levels coming down and talking to them.
That's right. Great. So we'll move to, I think this is the last question of the day is as a content creator, everybody's journey is, not similar. Maybe you are putting a lot of content, not getting that much views, or it could be like someone's graph is really, right up there. It's as soon as they put people, they become a star or something like that. But as a content creator, whichever stage you are at, how do you kind of keep improving in terms of the what formats I'm using, or what kind of things that are appealing to my DG, the content I'm regarding that I'm sharing. So little bit about that, if you could kind of share with the audience.
I think as a content creator, the first and most important thing is research, continuous research, and staying updated and staying relevant. I know it's an incredibly hard thing to do, but that's basically what we do at marketing. We have to stay continuously updated with the latest trends. We need to see what people are consuming, how they are responding, the trends that they're going for, the topics that are relevant that they associate with, right? Because right now, for example, people are more into short form videos. You are not seeing a lot of long form written content. You're not seeing even short form like pictures and content now. The age has come for videos. People are responding better when they see 30-second reels rather than seeing an entire video of people explaining things. And it's important
That's
to be flexible
at
to
least
be.
that is bringing your audience, at least, right, in terms of discovery, because maybe you might be explaining long concepts, but then with those reels or something, that at least the audience is coming in.
Yeah, I think it's important to be flexible in knowing the content that you have, but being able to distribute it in any different method, right? So if you have, like, say, 3 points that you want to convey in a particular topic, you can choose to write long paragraphs about it, or you can choose to write short paragraphs about it. And it's important to convey the content that you want to convey in a particular Hello? Sorry, I think I lost you for a bit.
Yeah, a little bit of a lag. Maybe you'll want to repeat that.
Yeah, so I was saying it's important to stay flexible as a creator to be able to distribute your content in a way that's more consumable to the masses. And I know sometimes it's not easy and some people hate it. Like people who are very comfortable writing are not very comfortable going on video. And it's a learning curve, but it's important to stay flexible there. Either you find a workaround around that, either you create videos where you're just writing things, or you're creating things again where people are more receptive to what you're doing. But it's important to continuously stay flexible there, because again, the form of content that people are consuming changes very rapidly. It's not long articles anymore. It's sometimes it's video. Today it's videos. Soon enough it might be something completely different. People might only be communicating via like avatars that they have on their social media profiles. And you
Yeah,
need to,
Web 3.0, we have to see
yeah,
what
you
is
need
there.
to
Also,
be.
the devices we are using, I mean, in terms of recording, like I had seen there's a Ray-Ban stories glasses, right, where you can kind of record. So, amount of, I mean, how you can utilize video in that sense is can take it to the next level and becomes easier also.
Yeah, and soon enough, people are probably only going to communicate via the metaverse. And if that's going to happen, you need to know that the content that you're producing, you need to find a way to bring it to the newer age. You need to find a way to bring it into different forms. Even I've seen a lot of graphic designers as well, people who only used to make web comics, now moving into things like reels, making animated reels because they know that that's how they're going to distribute it better. So I think staying flexible is definitely a big thing. The other thing is staying consistent. And it doesn't have to be with the way that you're distributing content, but it has to be with your frequency and with your brand consistency. Just because you're shifting to video doesn't mean you completely change what your topic is about, or that you reduce in frequency to a great extent just because you can't make like enough videos. You can always like mix and match and always do different forms of content, but it's important to stay consistent because once you have those small breaks, sometimes those are very hard to recover. People don't always keep up with the following. If you're absent for a very long time, then you might just be out of that circuit for a while.
That's right. Um, let's just take one or two. Just there's some extra questions which are interesting, I feel. Um, so there is an interesting question like as a B2B sales professional, since you are interacting, you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, what kind of content strategy can work for you indirectly for your sales?
I think with sales, it's a very people job. You are looking at connecting with a person, like we said, like we discussed a lot of storytelling techniques, right? You are
Mhm.
looking to connect with people via their stories, via things that they find personal and things that they are
Mhm.
struggling with, right? So what I found, like from a sales perspective, because we've done a lot of sales campaigns as well, it's important when you're pitching your product to understand the growth of the company that you're pitching to. So when you're talking to a B2B company, you don't just want to know their problem, but you also want to know what they have thought of as a solution themselves. Understand, their plan for the next 6 months or 4 months or something, and see how you can fit into that plan. That is something that really helps. At least I've seen that helps with our sales teams a lot, because they are not just pitching or telling people that, hey, you need to derail everything that you're doing right now because I have a product for you and this is why it's important. It's more comfortable for a person to always integrate into something that they already have rather than completely shift.
That's right. I would also like to say that now, I mean, everybody must be noticing that the salespeople, they are connecting personally, right? So
Yeah.
once you connect, then maybe say with a social media account or your WhatsApp or something, you have content like you keep putting out. So that is in terms of you are indirectly connected with them, you're educating them, building a credibility. So you being posting relevant content or well researched content is indirectly kind of they are getting that attention of that, especially a thing like say even WhatsApp, your stories or something. So um, I feel you utilizing these aspects is what's the next level, because being kind of salesly and after, I think that's passe now. You have to build kind of relations with them, and kind of like some. That's why now it's called relationship manager, not a salesperson and
Yeah.
all. So yeah, so I think that can kind of be utilized and connect with them, and like not necessary to be salesy and sell to. If somebody kind of educating them so that it becomes kind of easier also, like if they really need them, and try to have more options, connect with more people openly, uh, then only it kind of goes along. More meetings you get, more people you have the contacts of. You can even design your own personal email marketing, something you can do not from your company side, you as a salesperson.
Right.
There is a lot of opportunities within that, and you kind of utilize it. Just try to connect with them, like you have to put them in your position. Like if you what would you appreciate in that aspect of connecting with that person. So awesome. So next would be like the tools a bit. If you could tell about the content tools, like what you're using or anything new that is out there, you would like to suggest to content professionals in terms of discovering, what is trending, to even like your AI tools that are there for writing?
Yep. So I think, I mean, I don't know about a lot of free tools that are there, but as a
Hmm.
common suite of tools that we use, we use Hootsuite, we use HubSpot, we use, a lot of different tools for like social scheduling, for like, a Hotjar is a great tool actually that you can use to check out different trends and check out, the way your analytics are running. You can use for research and discovery, I'd say it's a process of just staying very relevant. What I do, at least in my field, is I set up Google alerts for any sort of news topic that is very relevant to me. So if I know that there's something coming out in, say, like the lending industry or something, I always set up those alerts so that I know when something is coming out from any large player. Like if the Mint or Bloomberg is coming out with an article, I'm the first one to hear about it as and when it's published, right? So setting up those alerts itself, I think, is super helpful, and that's always worked for me. Uh, Depending on the industry that you're in, I would say follow those particular influencers in the field. You'll always find some or the other. You'll find blogs and articles itself telling you who those influencers are. Or even if you do like even a little bit of a preliminary research, you have people who you will find right away. Right. So instead of you having to do that research on your own, you can just piggyback of someone else who's doing it. And I think that's in general how like the train of thought works. There you'll find someone else who is doing a majority of that hard work for you in discovering the topics so that you can just build off the content there. So I think that is something that I use largely. When it comes to other free resources and stuff, I don't use any AI tools as such right now. But for designing and just CRMs and stuff like that, Canva is a great tool that you can use for designing. The CRMs, you have HubSpot. I absolutely swear by HubSpot. I'm not sure if they have a lot of like free plans or anything, but I would say it's a great investment because I've used HubSpot my entire professional life. I have zero complaints from it. And it's always worked great because they have like the complete suite there. They have a lot of templates that you can use for emails. They have like great landing page templates. They have incredible sources for your analytics to get everything together in one spot. So I'd say, yeah, those are like a set of tools that I'd use in general. If there's anything else, I'd probably be putting it up on my LinkedIn so people can follow me there and check out in case I find anything else there.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. So I think we'll be wrapping up. It's been a great session. Just in terms of closing it out, what would you just say in terms of an attitude? Since we covered a lot about content and content creators and this thing, so what do you feel the emerging content creators? What kind of attitude they should have? Like, because there is a not only these technique, there is a mental aspect also to it. Like of being in that space. So what do you feel in terms of the attitude and behavioral? How should you take it, like when you are on this journey, you want to become a content creator in this space, a professional content?
I'd say, like, with content creation, you have to be quite resilient in terms of what you need to do because you need to understand that sometimes there's a lot of trial and error that goes into it. There are things that will work out, there are things that will not work out. But staying consistent is super important, and building that sort of resilience and knowing that, whatever you are putting out to the best of your abilities. You're not just putting something out for the sake of it. You're giving in. I think like it's important for all content creators itself with the content that they're producing that they believe in it a lot. Like they can back it up if questioned on it, right? You don't want to be in a position where you are sounding fake or where you're saying something just because you saw it on a different trend. You want to do your research behind it and stay consistent and stay resilient. I'd say that's my 2 cents on the topic.
That's right. Yeah, also, I feel like two aspects where I've interacted with the content creators. One is they are very open when you're emerging, very open to connections in terms of like the collab part of it, or just brainstorming, meetups, events, and all. That you should, if you don't have that, that's a major hurdle, because I mean, the more open you're, more connections, more options you have. And also where there's a detachment also you can have, where you can't put it, firstly I think you can't get into it starting off that I want to be professional in it. You have to kind of like, where somewhere or the other you are giving that thing for free, but you're giving that value. So your content, that effort should be there. Not that initially it could be like, I'm doing this so many things, so much of my effort off for free. That attitude should not be there. Should be that to get the best possible as to my abilities to put content and inform somebody. Many people, like what experiences they have, what they've learned from, they openly share it. So those kind of things you should be to the audience out there. So there are some things like this, I think uh, it will help you kind of improve also, because the mental aspect is the main thing, like you can't there's so much of like comments and trolling and all that happens, that you
Yeah.
have to shut off from. So actually a content creator, like even as a marketer, when you are looking at so much, you have to consume so much content, somewhere mentally you have to be very strong, like in terms of, yeah, you have to create your own shield around, because all kind of content is there, you have to research it, or you have to comment or whatever, or not react on something and all that. So that those kind of things definitely you all have to keep in mind. And I wish you all best in your content creating or marketing journey in that. Awesome. So great. We'll wrap up. Thanks a lot, Rebecca, for joining in for this great session and sharing all your views with the audience.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thanks again for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope we can do this again some other time.
Definitely. And please follow, I think the links are there, Rebecca on LinkedIn, because she also is posting quite a few content there. And, whatever she's up to, you can look it up on that particular platform. Definitely. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Nikhil. Bye bye.
Awesome. To the audience, please, you can kind of follow me on LinkedIn, and on the top right, my Linktree link is there. You can go scan that barcode, and my digital marketing strategies I give services for. So you can kind of connect with me, and we can take it further from there. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. I'll see you. Take care.